Scotch. It's a term that's become synonymous with whiskey in general simply because of its popularity and availability. So a lot of people refer to any whiskey as a Scotch, and those people would be fucking wrong. Scotch is simply whiskey that is made in Scotland, and as long as it conforms to a lot of the regulations that exist governing their whiskey production, then it is a Scotch whiskey, whether it is blended, whether it is single grain, or whether it is a single malt. Now obviously Scotland is known for its single malts, and there's been a distillery that came along within the last 29, nearly 30 years that is probably doing some of the finest single malt in Scotland at the moment. Arran. The Arran Whiskey Distillery is about to turn 30 in 2025, so a lot of their recent offerings have been focusing on some of the older stock that they have available to them. So today I thought it'd be interesting to try not one, not two, not four, but 3 different whiskies from Arran, completely blind, to see if I can actually tell the difference between them, but also to showcase what is my favourite Scottish whiskey distillery. So suck it, Lagavulin. Okay, I've got 3 whiskies in front of me. One of them has the Arran 10, one of them has the Arran 21, and one of them has the Arran 18. Why did I call them out in that order? I think what's great about blind tastings is that you appreciate the whiskey on its merits alone, on the flavour. You're not influenced by any of the branding, you're not influenced by a number that exists on the label, it is just the pure flavour. And I think it's especially good to try whiskies against each other. Doing a comparative tasting is not necessarily to see which whiskey is better, but it's to see what differences exist between different whiskies. Now Arran, for all intents and purposes, has a house style. The whiskies are typically 46% alcohol, which all of these will be. They'll be single malt unless otherwise stated. They'll be non-chill filtered, and typically they're going to age in a mixture of ex-bourbon and ex-sherry cask. So across these whiskies, there are a lot of similarities. So hopefully that's going to make the differences stand out a little bit more. So with that, we're going to start. Right to left, try this one. There is a kind of chocolatey note to it, or bitter at the very least, maybe not chocolate per se. I'm going to say this is one of the older Arrans. Potentially the 18. I don't think it's the 21. I think there's going to be more going on if it's the 21. So first one down. Now the Arran brand I think has done a really good job of positioning themselves in the market. Don't get me wrong, it's a cutthroat business, especially in Scotland. I mean, they've got about 140 odd distilleries in Scotland. So when you're a new distillery that's come along in the last 30 years, you're going up against heavyweights and giants that have the backing of global drinks conglomerates. And even if they don't have the backing of global drinks conglomerates, they've got heritage that goes back 150, 200 years. So it can be really tough to go up to bat against those types of brands. The way Arran has been getting into the market, I think they've been doing it pretty well, is pricing their whiskey exceptionally well. It's a delicious whiskey. Very fruity, very apple, very pear drop. So those kind of candied sweets that you used to get as a kid. They're the flavours that I get with this, but I don't get as much of the wood characteristic. Now don't get me wrong, assuming this is the 10-year-old, it's spent 10 years in an oak cask. It is going to pick up vanilla and caramel notes, but they're not the most prevalent. And I think if I was having this on its own, I would probably get more of that vanilla and caramel. But trying it next to a whiskey, which I assume to be older, those flavours aren't really going to come across because my palate has already picked them up in the whiskey that came before. Okay, final whiskey. So I've had creme brulee twice in my life, but that is giving me notes of creme brulee. There is that burnt sugar, that kind of custardy, vanilla-y, caramelly note that's coming across. 10, 18, 21. And if I'm wrong, I'm never doing videos again. Oh shit! I was fucking wrong. This one is the 21, and this one's the 18. I think arguably if a tasting had happened of the Arran whiskies and you knew what each one was as you went through them and you tried the 21, you'd probably rank that the highest because it's 21 and therefore it must be the best because it's the oldest. But realistically, based on the flavours, for me, the 18-year-old came out on top. Ultimately though, I think any Arran whiskey is a good whiskey. There hasn't been a bad one that I've had from them. And I think at the end of the day, they have whiskies that are really well priced. Their whiskies are phenomenal value, and not just value for value's sake, but the quality that you get out of them is fantastic. I mean, the price that you pay for these whiskies is kind of ridiculous. 105 euros for an 18-year-old, 145 euros for a 21-year-old. That's pretty much unheard of, even in Ireland at this stage. So having it from a new distillery is really great because they don't necessarily have the backing, the financial security of a huge conglomerate behind them. They're out there on their own, and they're doing really good whiskey at that. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. New videos come out typically every Friday, but for the next couple of weeks, there's going to be a small bit of a hiatus, and that's because I'm traveling. I'm going to be going to the great states of New York, New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and while I'm there I might film a video or two in one of the many distilleries along the East Coast. So watch this space and we'll be back in early October and you can see how I get on in my American adventure. But in the meantime, don't forget, this tastes like whiskey. Baby.